apart from George Hook and all the other people were here, I noticed a good friend, David Harvey, and I wondered what he was doing. And now we very soon will find out. Ladies and gentlemen, the man behind this documentary, Mr. David Harvey. We will give a Joyce explain to the people exactly where we start and where we finish with this.
Okay, thank you very much, Alan. Congratulations on your nomination. Well deserved. We started this one night. Noel, myself, Sean, and Eamon Moore. Sean Reedy and Eamon Moore met, and we said, we were just chatting about it on the phone, and said, why don't we just stick a camera up and see what happens? And I went to RTE, they thought it was a good idea. We went to the Department of Arts, they thought it was a good idea. And gathering a few other people and clubbed a few quid together to put this on TV. Really what it is it's following the story from a few perspectives, and you'll see it. We've involved people like the Irish Times, the National Library, people like Hugh Ross. The reluctant hero is Patrick Brennan. Funny that. And he was very, very generous in his access, as were all the people from the JFK Trust and all the people we came into contact with. So it's a little story, which is, by the way, and I said this at the other one we showed today, which is our international Kennedy's Mafia program. This is not a finished program. It's still got a little bit of work to do on it. It's a lot longer than the finished program will be. I've left as much as I possibly could in. The finished program will actually have a net running time of about 44 minutes. This is about an hour and 10. But it does tell the story of putting the visit together. It tells the story behind the scenes. It features a few very interesting people, and most of all, the people aren't actors, they're absolutely real. And I'm sure Eamon Moore, Sean Reedy, and others will be happy to sign up for us afterwards. Anyway, I hope you enjoy it and you're not too critical, but this is our effort. It's going out on RTE1 on the 19th of November, which is the week of the 50th anniversary of JFK's assassination. So thank you very much for your attention. It's nice to see you in such numbers. Thanks, everyone. We will have a panel on stage to share some memories of this year and also of this time 50 years ago, and I know you're going to enjoy that, but I'd love to say roll it there Colette, but instead I'd have to say roll it there Tomas. Thank you.
When my great-grandfather left here to become a cooper in East Boston, he carried nothing with him. If he hadn't left, I'd be working over at the Albatross Company. Or perhaps with John B. Kelly. In any case, we are happy to be back here.
My name is Patrick Brennan. I live here at Kennedy Homestead. My mother is a cousin to President Kennedy, and like her son, making 4 cousins to Carla. Our house, and there are touching up the bits that were broken on it basically. There was no porch put onto the property in the 1960s for the President visit, but it was just mass concrete and it was very unsightly. So there was a toilet block that we were using for the President's, for the visitors. So we've taken it down and redone the porches on the farmhouse from the 1870s.
The Office of Public Works have committed over €1.5 million towards the refurbishment of the Kennedy Homestead in Dunganstown, County Wexford. The whole thing needs to be ready for June 22nd, 8 weeks' time.
Behind me we have I suppose the only building to stay intact. It's intact from when Kennedy started farming here. It's a stable and barn, Rose Stone building, it's staying building here, and like it was built by John F. Kennedy's great-grandfather's grandfather, that generation. And I presumed all the buildings around here were built, were attached, but this one was actually slated from the early 1700s.
Despite common perception, it appears the Kennedys weren't a poor family.
The slaves would have been a sign of prosperity, but our landlords would have owned half Wales, and the local place name is all Quill de Hora. Quill is in the name. So we had massive old forests around here, and the landlord was clearing the forests, bringing the timber to Liverpool, and on the backload he was bringing back slate, and his tenants were being supplied with slate to build their houses. Like what I kind of reckon was the farms were pretty well structured, and the landlord was not an absentee landlord. He had very good system in that the tenants were allocated approximately 35 acres each, which made it very viable. So the lands weren't being subdivided, like especially the big problem in the west of Ireland, the subdivision of land. So John, the older brother, inherited, was getting this 35 acres. Patrick went to America, was actually named on a 30-acre farm next door. So they weren't your typical west of Ireland emigrant that's portrayed during the famine. So this is the old Stapleton barn. There's two divisions in it. It would have been for the storage of malt and barley, which was the main product. And I suppose malting barley, nearly, you could say the whole process brought Patrick Kennedy to America. So the stores in here, he was the youngest, he was delivering it into the brewery near Ross. Through that, he started training as a cooper, and coopering, the job of coopering went to Boston. When he went to Boston, he was with a group of other coopers from New Ross that seemed to have gone out around the same time.
For the last decade, Patrick has been running the farm and the homestead as parallel businesses.
So what we've used in here for the last 10 years has been our main visitors exhibit room. It would have been the Stapleton barn, and we used to tell the story of the Kennedys and going to America and how our family fitted in and the relationship fitted in with the Kennedys. So now for the new exhibit, we've divided the room up into two. We've kept the old loft that was here. The loft used to extend out over half the building, but in 1999 I cut it back because we just didn't have enough room in here. And we kept the old cobbled floor that was under the horse stalls. There would have been four then. And we have a barrel from Cherry's Brewery where Patrick Kennedy trained as a cooper, and that's and we've got more barrels, like a coopering one, I suppose, we're brought to America, as I said. What would have been stored in the loft would have been barley mainly, but really it was the workman that slept in the loft, and the male teenagers in the house my great-grandfather and grandfather did sleep on the loft. The ladies were out, the girls were staying inside, the teenage boys were out on the loft, and the horses then were underneath the loft.
Over the course of the next 2 months, Patrick's farm will be transformed into a state-of-the-art visitor centre and exhibition. At least, that's the plan.
But this is the new visitor centre building. It's Public Works Architects designed it. So what we have in here is an exhibition room, reception area, and facilities.
We had to knock the outbuildings and reduce all the ground. A lot of fill went out, as you see from the levels of all the area, which is a big depth. So there was a lot of work in it. A couple of sack machines and bumpers and all that stuff.
Pretty close to completion. We're getting through all the finishes now. Probably 2 weeks left, I'd say. And then we've 2 weeks of exhibition fit out and we're done. From the road, I don't think you can really see the building at all. But when you come into the car park, I suppose there's a little bit more of a presence for the building, you know.
I think it's lovely open airy room. Just anticipating the exhibition coming in and how it'll look. Excited about that.
He's around a lot and he's fairly hands-on. Nearly every time we come down here we see him, so yeah, I think we've a good working relationship with him. No complaints on this side. I don't know what he'd say about me, but
I'm calling it the Oval Office for the President's White House office, and then around the wall there's all these kind of exhibition bases on it. I think they're fitting it out office. They're making it up off-site and they're going to assemble it in here.
Sean Reedy, the CEO of the JFK Trust, is one of the central figures in the preparations for the weekend of celebrations, which begin on June 21st.
There's a number of things happening in preparation. Of course, we have the Kennedy Homestead refurbishment, which is nearing completion. We have a new exhibition going in for the JFK Arboretum, and the New Ross Quayside development is now in its final days of completion also. And that has a couple of really exceptional features. One is the boardwalk linking the JFK statue with the Dunbrody here. Secondly, we have a podium marking the spot where JFK made his speech on that day in June 63. And thirdly, we have beside the ship here the globe, which was going to house the Emigrant flame that's going to be lit from the flame from President Kennedy's gravesite in Arlington.
New Ross Town manager Eamon Hoare is also a key member of the organising team. The town will be the centre of the celebrations to mark the 50th anniversary of President Kennedy's visit. Central to the ceremonies will be the lighting of an emigrant globe from the eternal flame at President Kennedy's grave in Arlington Cemetery in Washington.
The globe is to represent all countries to which Irish people have emigrated. And inside the globe, and it's still being worked on, there will be an oak tree with strong roots and branches. Again, symbolism, family tree, family ties. And from the leaves of that oak tree will come the emigrant flame.
In Arlington, you're going to have the US military lighting the flame, passing to the Irish Army, who will pass it on to the Special Olympics, representing the Kennedy family, and they will pass it on to the Irish civic authorities. So that's the ceremony there, and then when that flame then will be brought by air back to Ireland, and from here back to Liverpool, where there's going to be a special ceremony in Liverpool, because that's where Patrick Kennedy transshipped on his way to Boston. And then back to New Ross, and Special Olympic athletes will take the flame off the Navy vessel and bring it up along the boardwalk from the Kennedy statue right up to the globe here and light the flame.
And members of the Kennedy family, Caroline Kennedy, daughter of the late President John F. Kennedy, Ambassador Jean Kennedy Smith and Taoiseach Enda Kenny, will together light the emigrant flame on the 22nd of June.
Sean Reedy is also responsible for welcoming a contingent of Kennedys to New Ross, and it reads like a who's who of the family.
The Shriver family will be represented. The Special Olympics are playing a special part in the torch carrying ceremony. Bobby Kennedy's family, Max, Chris, Max Jr., Douglas and Molly and their 5 children. We have Sydney Lawford and her husband. We have Kathleen Kennedy Townsend, her husband. And I'm probably leaving out some of them, but there's a very big, yes, we have Kiki Kennedy, who's Ted Kennedy Jr.'s wife, and her daughter and her niece, whose daughter Cara, who passed away. They're 2 of Ted Kennedy's grandchildren.
So I think it'd be a wonderful event, and it's national and international significance, and it's a day we're all looking forward to.
At the Irish Times, preparations are underway too. They plan to print an insertion to be distributed with the paper during the week of the 50th anniversary.
The plan is to produce a supplement, 32-page magazine format supplement, sort of tabloid, and this would be a supplement that would look at the visit of Kennedy to Ireland in '63, but also because obviously he died a few months later, we would look at the months that followed the visit here, but also at the Kennedy phenomenon, the Kennedys as a family, him as a person, and particularly the significance of the visit for Ireland.
His memories are really fantastic, you know, he really brings it alive, being with them. That's great,
One of the curiosities of it is that for about 30 or even 40 years, it still had the same kind of resonance for people when they thought about it as being a really very, very important date. But now, the last few years, because many of the people involved are dead, and also a new generation has emerged, and it's a different kind of country, it's perhaps important for us to try to understand why it was such a big deal at the time, and why he was such a big deal for Irish people at the time. Since the thing is going to be 10
With under 2 months to go, the senior features people are meeting to decide the structure of the supplement.
To have pictures running through it. We brought out a supplement at the time, and we'd probably be using, in fact, some of the same pictures that we used in that supplement in 1963. We'll be using some of those. So we'll be drawing on some of this archive material. But then what we'll be trying to do is to call on various people, historians, other people who would have been witnesses to the time, to either look at the historical context, but also then to look at the legacy and to look at the significance both from an American point of view, but also from an Irish point of view.
At the National Library of Ireland, Keeper of Services Catherine McSharry is busy too. The library will mark JFK with a special exhibition, and the organising group is getting a first look at the plans.
We have not a huge amount of time left, but it's not until next month, so yeah, that's still a long way away. Broadly speaking, this is what the identity will look like in relation to Kennedy material. The Discover space, as it stands at the moment, is probably pretty muted, so we wanted to go for something quite bold, and it has that kind of early 60s with a touch of the Mad Men feel about it there, actually, which I think is quite strong and quite distinctive and works really well with the black and white images. So that's an idea of what the panels will look like, and what you can see there is we've rejigged the space down there to make it a little bit more coherent as the visitor comes in. You know, that's one of the things we've had a problem with before, is when someone comes in, they don't actually know what it is they're supposed to do.
The exhibition, which is backed by the US Embassy and the Department of Arts, Heritage and the Gaeltacht, will be housed in one of the library's exhibition spaces on Kildare Street.
We have our exhibition conceptually, but as you can see here in the space, we need to get it all actually into reality. Exhibition items, our videos are being made, the touchscreens are being put together, so everything is being assembled off-site at the moment, and from the 3rd of June, this space is going to be transformed into the JFK exhibition.
Back at Dunganstown, things are progressing. But while the architect is happy so far, Patrick is less than impressed with part of the proposed finish.
The contractors are a week from leaving the place. They're just wrapping up, they're finishing off the finishing touches on the place. The Office of Public Works are, I suppose, they're doing a checklist now, and snag list at the moment. And the exhibition designers are ready to come in tomorrow.
Instead of a cobbling, the yard has been finished to a less than ideal standard.
Well, the ground has been concreted. That's to kind of Heritage Council specification. I'd have loved a nice natural stone finish and nice cobbles, but I suppose the time there is because I think the project ran short of money and they decided to concrete instead. I wouldn't like it myself, but that's budgets and financial constraints. So I don't know what the exhibition, how the exhibition designers will get on, but the building is nearly finished, yeah. The building is nearly wrapped up, just tidying up inside. Well, so much after been spent in the place, and we're like to get ready for tourists to come in. Like it'd be very tight, and like you'd like to run in a couple of weeks before the official opening. It's just small numbers of visitors come in first, so we're going to have the official opening on the 22nd, and then it'll be the official handover to JFK Trust, and they'll run it on the 22nd. Yeah, well, we will have a few buses, but I suppose the road is a massive issue, and access to the place. And the tradition there would have had a good number of buses, yeah.
And to go with his growing profile, Patrick is becoming a bit of a media star.
I've been coerced into doing Marine Meets. Yeah, I suppose I've let myself in for all of this, and I've no choice but to do it. Wouldn't be by choice, yeah. Quite shy and nervous person. I'm shocked, actually. I don't really want to do these things.
It's late May. And with a month left to the homecoming, the first of the Kennedys is on a flying visit to New Ross to help launch the program.
4 weeks to go, plenty of work to do. It's always a situation, wish we were where we are now 4 months ago, but really looking forward to it. Loads of people pulling together. I think it'll be a memorable day for the Kennedys, a memorable day for the people of New Ross, a memorable day for Ireland. So really looking forward to it at this stage.
Patrick Kennedy, a former US congressman, is a son of the late Senator Ted Kennedy.
As the namesake of the man in my family who left in the 1840s to make a new life in America, I'm honored to be the Patrick Kennedy that comes back many generations later to pay tribute to those who stayed and the story of those who left. And that's what connects us. I want to say it's a special privilege for me to be here with the Patrick who stayed in Ireland. Because Patrick represents the family that never left. And I want to say when I bring my children over, I'm looking forward to having them meet your children. Because what this is about is an opportunity for our families to see each other and to tell each other about their journeys. And the journey that's represented by the Dunbrody is a journey that is worth preserving, but also the journey that lies ahead is something that we're all very excited about. That is really the essence of this initiative. The work goes on, the hope still lives, and the dream shall never die. Thank you all very much for being here.
Irish Times photographer Eric Luke has been on hand to capture some images of Patrick for use in the paper and the supplement.
A picture will be up here tomorrow in the newspaper, in the news section, and other pictures have been put aside for the supplement, the gallery of the Irish Times, and this will be a main feature in that supplement. But the shots have to be, obviously, Patrick, the two Patricks, the cousins. You have to show some location, so as much as you can, of the old original farm that is there, and as relaxed and as informal as possible on both pictures. So they chatted away very informally, they were very comfortable, and they ignored the cameras very quickly. So that worked quite well. It's interesting, everybody loves something to do with the Kennedys. And I actually love these buildings where you can actually trace back to the original spot where the Kennedys came from. And it's a great piece of history to see it there.
The man who left Shannon Airport and said, you know, I'll be back in the springtime, and never made that journey because of what happened in Dallas a few short months later. And now I think, I suppose in a symbolic way of fulfilling his desire to come back and bring back that light or that flame of inspiration that he was to so many people.
Everything has to be finished for the 22nd. The exhibition is just about to go to Dublin, really tight, but will be there. Construction on the quay, still elements of the flame to be finalised. They're working on that, the London Olympics people over in England. So we hope to have everything in place, even if it's a week leading up to it, as long as it's in place and working for the 22nd, I'd be happy.
Patrick's big media appearance has arrived. As the big day approaches, he's growing in confidence.
Very proud of it. A couple of years ago when I first got involved in this project, I met a self-professed introvert called Patrick Brennan. He has gradually, slowly come out of himself in the public and political and media sense and to be a central part of these celebrations. I have promised him in the next 4 or 5 weeks, I will make him, against his best wishes, a national and international celebrity when it comes to this.
We used to talk to each other as much as you want. I like that. Same hair colour. Yeah, same hair colour. You look very Irish. Is there such a thing as looking very Irish?
Well, it's nice to have the name Patrick Kennedy after the fellow who left this country in the 1840s. So I just, you know, it's a great thrill for me to most people in America like go to ancestry.com, you know, find out where their, you know, linkage is. When I come to Ireland, it's wonderful. I have my family name is on the house that they left from, and now, thanks to the Irish government, there's a visitor center there. So when I bring up my children, I can bring them. And then I know this fellow Patrick, because I can say, hey, listen, this is someone you're related to. It's going to be great fun.
At the homestead, there's been a transformation.
Nervous now about the whole thing. Only 2 weeks ago, there's a big snag list here where it's taking shape. I suppose extraordinary well. It's very warm weather, and last couple of days in the building is really heating up. It kind of needs air conditioning. It's 29 degrees in there the other night. Sun was shining into the window, and you just be concerned, I suppose, with the exhibition and all the new photographs going in, that with the light coming in the window, that'll be okay. So I think there's a K class that can sort that out. So maybe it's okay. And I suppose another main concern would be that the cafe, there's no cafe in this place, and people have been calling already and we're a bit worried about no cafe. So the JFK Trust, who are going to come in to take over, see what they can do and want to do with buildings in terms of cafe. So I think we'll get slaughtered here without a cafe for people. The construction we went through that we were living with for the last 6 months, and I'm really enjoying it. The foreman has gone off site, we're missing the main builders here at the moment. Somebody talked every day, and it's just small snags now.
that are here that actually just concerned about but see, everything seems to be in hand. Like an engineer from the OPW is in at the moment, and he's spotting things to be snagged, and he seems to be very good.
At the Irish Times, the design team is working on finalising the content of the supplement. The cover photo is the first thing readers will see, so it has to be good.
We chose this one because we could add some colour to it. There's very limited supply of colour photographs from the visit. This one here works on a number of levels. It kind of looks as if JFK has been parachuted into a country bourne with his flash car from the city. There are a number of colour photographs from the JFK Memorial Library in Boston, which we're trying to get hold of. Hopefully we will, because that will give us a very strident centre spread. Otherwise, it's going to be pretty black and white throughout. Also, we kind of seem to capture something of the mood of the visit. There are hordes of visitors here. Remarkably, there's only 2 or 3 people looking over the gate as the president, the leader of the free world, descending into this small Irish village. You can see that's the shape of the page. So what we're going to need to do now is to get rid of this black line and also colour the sky somewhat, and also this leaves room for the title of the supplement and anything else we need to put on the front page.
We're getting as many pictures in as we can so that people actually will have a sense of those who were there. We have several people who were there in 1963 telling their stories, and I think that would be interesting for people as well.
Government Chief Whip Paul Keogh chairs the National Steering Group for the visit.
This is the first time the flame has been removed from John F. Kennedy's grave, and I think it's symbolic that we're bringing back New Ross to the home of his ancestors, where he said he would return in the springtime. Unfortunately, he never had an opportunity to return in the springtime, and I believe this is really symbolic, and it's a great occasion for his family. I think it's going to be a very sad occasion for his family as well, because it's 50 years since his assassination.
Top of the group's agenda is the repatriation of the flame, which will be lit from President Kennedy's grave.
Good afternoon, everyone. First of all, I'd like to thank everyone for coming out to our, I think will be probably our final meeting. Unless the whole thing goes pear-shaped and y'all want answers afterwards, well, I think that's going to happen.
Brian Spain, Director at the Department of Defence, is coordinating the input of the Defence Forces.
We're going out on Sunday. There's an multicolored party going out, which will take the flame on Tuesday in Arlington. It comes back via New York, and we arrive back into Dublin Airport on Thursday morning at 9 o'clock. And there will be a ceremony at Dublin Airport at 9 o'clock on Thursday morning. The flame will come down from the aircraft, and there will be a reception party to greet the flame. The flame will be passed from the Army military colour party over to a Naval Service colour party, because the Naval Service will be taking charge of the flame from that moment.
Today has finally arrived. There's great excitement here, even though it is going to be a very solemn occasion. From all the organisation, all the meetings, all the telephone calls, today is what it's all about, and it's kind of gearing up for next Saturday, 22nd. And it's good to see him as well, Joe Kennedy, given his time to be here, and see he's striking right here. And I've no doubt that just showing his Irish roots, he's very proud of his forefathers and where they came from, and he's very excited about today as well.
Well, we were here for the 45th anniversary, and what it was, we were getting permission to use the image of John F. Kennedy for the statue, and once we had that completed, done and dusted, one day I was walking by the statue and I thought, God, wouldn't it be great if we had a replica flame taken from President Kennedy and brought home, completing the circle that began in '63 and fulfilling the promise that he said he would return from the town from whence he came.
Pledge of Allegiance on behalf of the government and people of Ireland. The Irish national anthem are on the field, and we are honoured today to be joined here in the United States of America.
Actually prepared this operation was on camera until we get there.
Despite hours of practice, Eamon is having problems transferring the flame into the travelling torches.
I gathered behind the scenes there was some concerns yesterday as to whether they had the right paraffins and kerosene, whatever they needed in terms of the flame, and a bit of a false start on the transfer, but the big flame was always lit, and now the small flame is in a minor lamp and be safely on a plane out of New York to Dublin tomorrow.
Under the most intense pressure, eyes of the world on me. I think it took 6 attempts to transfer the flame from the ceremonial torch into the lamp.
Half an hour later, the torches are lit, and a relieved Eamon Hoare is about to begin the journey back home. The Kennedys are arriving, and the torch has landed at Dublin Airport.
But it did take quite a bit of organising. Doing anything on board an aircraft is obviously a very safety regulated environment, so we have to contact the Irish Aviation Authority, we have to contact the Department of Transport in the US, the TSA in the US, and we have to talk to security groups on either side of the Atlantic about getting the flame through the airport, as well as to be allowed to carry it on the aircraft.
We go over then to America then for the funeral. Yes. I don't know, I think we did.
The images that were beamed all around the world at the time of John F. Kennedy's visit was a big boost for transatlantic business. So American tourists in particular saw the pictures of Ireland, they saw the president visiting, and suddenly they all wanted to come back to their home country. So the following 3 or 4 years were really, it was a big surge in business for us, and it really helped get what was an infant business off the ground. You can see the flames being handed over to the Irish Navy, who are now going to take it to New Ross for a ceremony on Saturday where they light the American flame. So far so good. Given the perfect choice of carrier to assist with the passage of the flame, because ultimately we see ourselves as very much part of that link between Ireland and America for the Irish diaspora. You know, an awful lot of people who travel on our flights. We have 1 million customers a year on our transatlantic flights. An awful lot of them are people with a history similar to the Kennedy family, where their relatives emigrated in the 1800s. So you know, we're very much associated with that connection between Ireland and America. So it was very fitting for us to be involved, and we're happy to do so.
Well, up to 2 or 3 minutes ago, it was pure terror, just purely relief, and everything went without a hitch. The plane wasn't dropped, it didn't go out. We managed to bring it from Arlington, and at least got to Irish soil. Such a relief.
At the National Library, the exhibition is almost ready, despite a few last-minute hitches.
One of the concerns we have at the moment is we have very elaborate lighting set up here, and we're not sure that we're actually going to be able to make it work to its optimal. So we want to turn off some and turn on others and have some of them facing in a particular direction. And it's apparently one of the most expensive light systems in the world, but we're not sure we're going to be able to do that in time for Thursday. So fingers crossed. If we can move lights, we're going to have to think of some way of bringing some illumination in, because of the material in the cases can't have light shining directly on it. So we're going to have to figure out something. We can't have all the Kennedys stumbling around here in the dark next Thursday. The Kennedys are a really big draw. Everybody wants to be at all of the events, and we're very lucky we have Caroline Kennedy and her family coming to open the exhibition for us on Thursday with Minister Deenan. Quite a lot of people want to get in, so we're going to have to manage that very carefully. I'm telling myself that there's plenty of room, so we're waiting to find out. It's really important, I guess, when you have somebody as significant as Caroline Kennedy coming to celebrate her own father's experiences here. You really want to get it right, and you want to make sure everything works really well for her and works really well for us, and showcases all the work that's been done here. We had a slight customs issue during the week, but that's been resolved. So we had a slight worry about the material coming from Boston, and there seemed to be some consideration that it might be held up in customs, which wouldn't be good, but that's been cleared up. So fingers crossed, by Monday and Tuesday next week, everything will be in place, and all the stuff we're hoping for will actually be in cases. It sounds like tempting fate to say everything will be in place. We're definitely hoping, we have a couple of days contingency, but I've never worked on an exhibition yet that didn't have something unexpected happen at the last minute, so hopefully it's not too dramatic.
At the Irish Times printing plant in West Dublin, the final printout of the supplement is underway.
So what we're producing today is a 32-page magazine. Each file is sent through town as a PDF, and it then populates into the plan. When the information comes, it's transferred and it's lasered onto a plate, and it comes through the processor, developed, and goes through the system. The lasers here will put the image on the plate, and it'll be developed through here, which is called the processor. So that's actually, we're looking at the back page of page 32 there. I can scroll on here. And that's the front page of the magazine.
But for some reason, the JFK car shot, which was to have been on the front page, has been relegated to the back.
Designers are strange people, you know, so whatever they want, we'll print for them, you know.
As the exhibition opens, the Kennedys arrive in force. Jean Kennedy Smith among them, as well as the President's daughter Caroline, on hand to begin the celebrations.
Thank you all for welcoming us here. There are many members of my family here. I'd like to recognize my aunt, Ambassador Jean Kennedy Smith, who was with my father 50 years ago. And my cousin Kathleen Kennedy Townsend is here, and my cousin Congressman Patrick Kennedy is here, and I'm sure there's others, but all of us are thrilled to be here, and we've tried to send a representative group over to Ireland.
The next generation of Kennedys is getting in on the act. Tatiana, Caroline's daughter, making the key address.
I believe profoundly in the future of Ireland, that this is an isle of destiny, that that destiny will be glorious, and that when our hour has come, we will have something to give to this world.
It's Friday, and Patrick is making last-minute preparations for the weekend.
Just met the Kennedys last night, really brought it all home and how significant the whole day is going to be tomorrow. And the exhibition guys are in there, they're working really hard, and I hope they'll have it ready in time. I'm sure they will, they'll work during tonight. And the first Kennedys are arriving in New Ross in 2 hours' time. I hope they'll be really impressed with this place. Look at the weather coming in store, no problem. Sunny southeast, holding up to its name.
News crews are arriving from all over the world, and there's massive media interest, particularly in Patrick.
I think he strikes me as being a Kennedy. Frankly, he's easygoing, glib, confident, with just a great story, a sense of heritage. It's terrific. The Kennedys are royalty. We didn't even have to try this one. So often in our business, the news business, we're pushing, trying to get a story on the air, pitching as we call it, and we never hear that. This is a story where the bosses themselves pitch to us, tell us what to do, because it's just such a gimme, as we say in the business. It's such an obvious story that connects with the American public, even 50 years on.
In the town of New Ross, everybody's getting a touch of Kennedy fever.
Everyone is so excited about this. This is a hugely historic occasion, and everyone is working so hard to make sure that the flags are out, the bunting is out, and there's a great sense of optimism, a great sense of feeling about the place, and everyone has such a positive view towards the Kennedy family coming home, the fling, and the amount of effort that has gone into making today and tomorrow and the days after possible. So there's a huge spirit of community spirit that I think John F. Kennedy will be very proud of.
2 o'clock, and the Kennedy show rolls into town.
This is the Kennedy family meeting their cousins on the quayside in New Ross. There's Douglas and Molly and their 5 kids. Amy and her 3 children. Kiki, Grace, Kylie, I can't remember all the names, and then Patrick Brennan and Jim Brennan and their children. It's a great moment, it's a very poignant moment for the family, and you know, they're beginning to connect. And Douglas just arrived at the airport this morning with his 5 kids, so a bit bleary-eyed, but it's great.
It's so great to be here, really, really. It's so wonderful. Chills just being able to see the history here, and knowing that my uncle was here and he loved being here so much. It was such a thrill for him, and has always been a memory that our family has shared, but so fondly recalling his time here. We were always taught that this was a moment in President Kennedy's life that he just cherished, and he was so overwhelmed by the way he was greeted here, and so to be back here and to have people still remember it is really, really nice.
I still remember you drinking the whiskey out of the tank.
Yes.
You were thirsty that day. Nobody fed you.
That's the same as today.
Well, we're having a great time. It's really fun. We've heard great things about the ship. And it's fun to be on it. You don't see square rigs that much anymore. And it's really an honor to be on the boat. All 3 of us sail. We do classes every summer, so we love sailing. Maybe hopefully one day we can just go up.
I think it's been so great for me to hear is those personal stories of what his visit meant 50 years ago. And because he was so young and people live longer now, there are a lot of stories. His time here was not just wonderful for him, those 4 days where she said were the happiest 4 days of his life, but how it was important for Ireland and how the Irish people felt, my gosh, if an Irishman can become president of the United States, we can do anything.
All of the Kennedys are in demand by the media.
It's a long way back for you guys. Do you still have a spiritual connection with this tiny island in their time?
It's Friday evening, and the Kennedy homecoming dinner is in full swing.
This is the local community coming out in style to welcome the Kennedy family to New Ross. And it's a great opportunity for the people of the town to press the flesh with the Kennedys.
But with just hours to go, Eamon still has a lot to do.
A little bit happier now. Things are beginning to go well, but still a lot to do tonight. I have to give time checks for sounds tomorrow to some of the groups, Valda, Judy Collins, people I still have to contact, people that I deliver tickets to, so a lot to do. So I won't be at this function tonight. I'll be away working.
What time do you think you get to bed?
Could be a lot later.
You know, we have a new generation and interested in politics and government and all that. And I think it's very important that they get an early start and have meant a lot to our family. You know, I think particularly who's been sort of neglected on this trip is Honey Fitzgerald on my mother's side. And he was the one who gave us the interest in history, and Irish history particularly. He was totally into Irish history. And the boys all went to school in Boston, you know, at Harvard and so forth, and he would take them out and show them Bunker Hill and all those different kinds of things. And he was really old-fashioned Irish.
Caledonia! Caledonia! What makes you big and so hot? I love justice. I'm a crazy guy from Caledonia. Son, you better stay away from that woman. She can't cook, she can't clean, she can do nothing. She just sit around the house and blow that sax off. Caledonia! Caledonia! What makes your big head so hot? I love her just the same. I'm the biggest man from Caledonia Sunday.
It's Saturday, and on the quay in New Ross, preparations are underway for the show that afternoon. Veteran television director Peter O'Doherty is controlling the staging of the event.
It's a bit of a maelstrom here at the moment, but it'll eventually come all together, and what's going to happen here is that there's a show here this afternoon. Tonight, there's a live show in the afternoon with local bands, but tonight is the big show. We lack the kind of rehearsal time that you would normally associate with something as big as this. But everybody's very professional about it. They know what they're doing, and it'll be like being at a football match. We'll follow the ball.
Judy Collins, who sang at the JFK inauguration, is due to play. She said she'll need a sound check at 5 o'clock, just minutes before the off.
Not a reality at 5 o'clock, but we're hoping to get it this morning, but we need to get the piano in first. Sound check without the piano won't suit her. If push comes to shove, she's a professional. She's been doing it for a very, very long time, just as I've been doing my gig for a very long time. And if I'm prepared to fall back on my professionalism and do it without a rehearsal, I'm quite sure she's well capable of doing it herself. Any number of young people, beautifully trained, well educated, who can do what needs to be done once I give them the guidelines. They take over the technology, and I just nod. A Steadicam and a standby handheld if it's available, and indeed perhaps even Camera 5 at that point will be here as well, just to cover me in case there's a difficulty with any one of the radio links, which isn't likely, Paul, sure it's not. There you go.
A little bit helter-skelter at the moment. I suppose the main concern is the weather. Looking at detailed photographs, it's supposed to blow over sometime later in the afternoon, so maybe our local acts might get a little bit wetter. But people looking at the local acts, hopefully by about 5:30 or 6, that the weather will be fine.
At Duncanstown, the last-minute preparations are being put in place.
Caterers in, they're cleaning up, they've mowed the lawns, last lick of paint went on. Really looking forward to having the Kennedys come in and looking through the exhibition. I think it's very impressive, and I think it's going to be very emotional.
2 o'clock, and the Kennedy Roadshow is on the move again.
We are having a great time, and Sean here is doing, I cannot believe nobody ever in the history since the Kennedy family became more than 5 or 6 has been able to organize us the way this man has. I mean, we are the most stubborn, we inherited the most stubborn parts of the Irish race. Nobody likes to be told what to do. And this man is telling everybody what to do, and they're doing it.
I'm kind of getting a sense of excitement. The exhibition in the homestead is fabulous. If you've seen it for a minute, it's just unbelievably good. I think the family are going to be blown away by it. I can't wait to see the reaction.
Hundreds of guests and numerous supporters are on hand to greet the family.
They love the welcome they've had, and like even Jean said a few words at a dinner last night. She cried and she said this is what she feels at home.
Caroline Kennedy, daughter of John F. Kennedy.
It's wonderful to be here for me with so many members of our family. I think all of us have drawn great strength from the bonds of family and faith that my grandparents passed on to us. And so for me to be here with my Aunt Jean and my cousin Kathleen and Douglas and his children and my cousin Sydney and my cousin Patrick, Kiki, and all the many children who are here, my own children, I think it just shows how meaningful this very special visit is to us.
With the arrival of the Taoiseach, the ceremonies can begin.
I would say the young Kennedys, the young Wexford, the young Ireland.
But the waiting proves just a little much for one member of the Guard of Honour.
All that you do, the Irish-American connection. Today, once more, we have an Irish-American in the White House. It is said that the Kennedy name may come from the family of our own High King, Brian. The man from Donegal, somewhat unusually, says he's a cousin of Henry VIII and that he knows all about the crack. Like President Kennedy, President Obama, he's a passionate believer in Ireland and in the Irish people.
Go to leave ground, exit. We're just going to reenact the tea party now. Hopefully it goes well. So we've got one of the cousins who are here on the day. She's going to pour a cup of tea. I've just put it on her now.
I said to Patrick, my favourite piece is actually in the old barn, where John F. Kennedy had a cup of tea. Was with your grandmother? Yeah. And the old seat there, television, kind of, it's a more as a kitchen type set piece, and I have to say it's my favourite piece of all the exhibitions because it brings you back to reality of exactly what John F. Kennedy seen when he come here in '63.
It was a great ceremony. I thought we remembered what John Kennedy meant. I was so moved. I mean, I went into that small house, and then I don't know if you've been in there, but there's the wreath that John Kennedy laid for the people who were killed in 1916, and he wanted them back in Arlington, and then they didn't come back till he died himself. Very, very tough. Very moving. The whole thing is really tough and moving.
1, 2, 3.
As a bust of Senator Ted Kennedy is unveiled, Seamus Heaney is on hand to add his words.
The cruel assassinations of President Kennedy and Bobby was tragic for that family. It was tragic for America, and it was tragic for the world. A light went out, but then, happily, a light came on again, and that one done the key, the eternal light, is a terrific reminder of a refreshment of possibility. So it's an honor to be here with Jean today, a friend to us, personal friend, and Mr. Holland quoted W.B. Yeats, luckily not the same one that I hope to quote. When Yeats wanted to describe the effect of his dramas, what he wanted in his dramas, he said he wanted character isolated by a deed to engross the present and to dominate memory. And men and women of the Kennedy family, then and now, have that terrific ability.
Jean Kennedy Smith boards the naval vessel L.E. Orla to accompany the eternal flame about a mile up the River Barrow to New Ross.
Everyone would have rehearsed this. We've been looking forward to this now for a while. It's a great honour for the naval service, especially for ourselves as a crew, and we're all looking forward to the ceremony.
There is some concern on board, however.
I'm nervous. You know we're on spring tides. There's very little water in this berth, so we need to get off it fairly quickly. And there's very little water on the Tron berth, so we can only stay there for 15 minutes. It's going to be a very tight manoeuvre for the ship's captain, but he's got the competence and professionalism to do that, and I just find full confidence in doing so.
All the kids are mad about it. They're all going to take homes here. You better get ready. You think it's funny. You'll turn into Cape Cod.
The flame will be ceremoniously marched ashore, and from there it will be taken by an honour guard from the naval service up to the John F. Kennedy statue, and from there it will be stood guard over by members of the naval service, and then the flame will be ceremoniously passed along the pier back to the emigrant flame itself, which is on the other side of the quay wall, and from there the Taoiseach and Jean Kennedy Smith will light the emigrant flame.
The concern here is purely water. The draft of the ship is 3.2 metres, so we can actually only remain alongside for 2 hours before the ship runs aground. So that's where the whole ceremony so far has been run to timings, and the basis of that is that there's only so long we can stay here, they're going aground.
On the quayside, an expectant crowd is waiting. the success of the day so far, Eamon is stressed.
But I'd say hopefully nobody notices the little things. And as you said to me before, nobody does notice these things. Nobody knew, everybody must agree. But it's okay, you know. And just so many phone calls from so many different people. People on ships as a T-shirt here. But it's grand, it's grand. Second the weather is holding, and I'm beginning to calm a little bit myself now, so it's fine. It's plenty of time to sort, so I'm happy.
The torch lit from the eternal flame is handed over, and the official ceremonies begin again.
Members of the Kennedy clan, people of Wexford, people of the world, in this country we have always celebrated great occasions with fire, Samhain, Baltana, Lulasa. Now this evening we light this evergreen flame in the night between the summer solstice and the bonfires of St. John's Night. From the grave of the 45th President of the United States, John Fitzgerald Kennedy, the torch has been passed. And we light this flame to honor all of our immigrants, old and new. And it is born as a symbol of the affection that we have for our diaspora, as a living sign that they are our family and we are their family, irrespective of where they are around the world. With this flame, we rekindle the light of life and of hope and of home that was extinguished by the Great Hunger, or the Gulf of Moor, as we call it in Irish. May it be a fire that will never be extinguished, like the name on the shop across the road, Celtic Treasures. These truly are what the Kennedy clan are, Celtic treasures. Long may it continue to be so.
As the flame is lit, the Air Corps stage a dramatic flight past. Ever the perfectionist, Eamon is in the middle of the action right till the end.
Just complete relief. I don't know if it's obvious, but almost every little thing that could go wrong did go wrong. But we had minutes and seconds here and there just to put everything right. Little bits of time was wrong. Probably nobody else noticed, but it could have developed into something that ruined it for everybody. Thankfully it didn't.
I mean, there was a lot of stress in between. I mean, Aileen Hoare had a horrible journey, I think, from Washington to New York.
We just said we weren't without a podium because the backdrop was fine and the mic on the stick was grand. Taoiseach was happy with that, and Jack said, I'd like a podium. And I said, that might be the problem. So give me a few minutes. So the Taoiseach said, we had to take it from the top slot to the crowd, up on the boardwalk, and we got it there just as the Taoiseach was speaking.
I think that the 50th anniversary of JFK's visit was a date that had to be celebrated, and a lot of the stuff that we were planning was almost ready well in advance, as you know, that we were a couple of months ahead of it. But of course, nothing you can't for an event like this. You're always living on the edge the last couple of days. It's like a roller coaster. You know, you're just running around, hoping the hell everything goes okay. But you know, it was great.
I think the best bit was when the flame was lit. It had run smoothly, and it's just the thought, oh no, something could go wrong at the last minute. And it was just a little bit of tension, and then when the flame lit, and everybody cheered, it was brilliant. That was the best bit for me. Fly past, I think it was such a surprise for people, and it was a brilliant fly past, absolutely brilliant. And a lot of people got the significance with the one plane taken off, the missing man, again, it links in with the whole theme of immigration. And I think people got it, it was lovely.
For the technical people, it's also a triumph.
The whole thing went quite well, all things considered. We went off script about 10 seconds in, and so it became slightly tricky, but they knew where they wanted to go. And they knew that I knew that they were going to go there, so it all worked out in the end. It's a bit like, you know, we were surrounded by real professionals, really good people who knew what they had to do. It was like, you know, just because you go off piste doesn't mean you stop skiing. And the boardwalk was supposed to be kept clear for security reasons, The man on the jib couldn't even swing a cat, never mind a jib. So all of that was a bit dodgy. And Michael Flatley disappeared. And Enda Kennedy, which he's now going to call himself because he reckons there's something in it for him. He wasn't used to killing other people. So when he had to kill Caroline Kennedy, he said, what? Oh, yeah, okay. And he went ahead and did it. But all in all, I mean, it worked well, overran by about an hour, which was not for TV anyway. And even if it was, it probably was better than what they were going to put on there anyway.
Amazing, brilliantly conceived idea by those in the town council that came up with it. It was terrifically executed. And on the same day the homestead was opened, it was a terrific way to mark the half-century of John F. Kennedy.
I actually went to school with Eamon Hoare. I'll be the first one to get your autograph, Eamon, well done. I'm going to welcome on stage now to share some memories of the Kennedy visits 50 years ago and of course celebrations this year, and maybe for their comments of what they've just seen. So I'll call them up, first of all, representing the People Newspaper Group. I believe he's the Managing Director, Mr. Michael Ryan. From TV3's excellent midweek programme, and of course well-known politician as well, former well-known politician, Nora Owen. Journalist and blogger, which is all hip at the moment, Elaine Larkin, you're very welcome. I know this fella, got to know him quite well over the last number of months. It's a great pleasure to welcome accomplished broadcaster, Mr. George Hook. So first of all, I'll go to the end of the line there to give George a chance to settle down. And I can ask Michael Ryan from the People Newspaper Group just to give his reaction to what he has just seen there, and then to share memories of 50 years ago, what you know of it. I know you weren't around, Michael. And of course this year's celebration. So Michael, you're very welcome. First of all, your reaction to what you've just seen on the screen there.
It's fantastic what we just seen there tonight. It brought back so many little things from the day itself, and I think it showed the amount of hard work, the tremendous planning that went into it. I think great credit is due to people like Eamon Hoare, to Sean Reedy, to Patrick Grennan, and to all the people who were involved in it. Not just even in the execution of it on the day, but in the inception of it and in bringing the whole Kennedy Trust project on to 2013. I was talking to Sean last week, and it just struck us that there was nothing really to commemorate the 10th anniversary of the Kennedy visit. There was nothing to commemorate the 20th anniversary of the Kennedy visit. It took 25 years before there was an entity in place which was able to build on the Kennedy connection. I think the work that has been done by the Trust over the last 25 years, and by everybody who's been associated at different times with the Trust, has come to fruition. And New Ross has now a very strong and real and viable connection with the Kennedy family, I think, which gives the town some great confidence going forward, which gives the town great opportunity, and this year I think which gave the town the chance to show just what a good place it is. So I think great credit is due to all the people in the Trust, because they are the people who brought what you saw there in an hour and 15 minutes to fruition for over a 25-year period.
And Michael, just your memories as you look back on the 50 years ago, so I can remember.
Right now, 50 years ago,
well, just looking back at that particular period, which I'm sure you've researched.
Yeah, my dad was here in Ross in 1963. He still tells me about the day that Kennedy came to town, and he remembers it vividly. And you know, for his generation, it was a magnificent occasion. Paddy Delaney, our photographer, reminded me earlier in the year about the helicopter landing with Kennedy. I think he was in the Scouts at the time, and it was just like something from out of this world for the people, because with helicopters, with the motorcade, with this movie star president coming into Ireland, I don't think we can fully appreciate it at all. But back then, when people didn't travel, when people weren't flying off to American places to do their shopping and for holidays and whatever they have been doing in recent years, but back then, for Kennedy to come here was a huge thing. Taking it forward to this year, what I was thinking about it today, what struck me on the day itself was the lighting of the flame, and I think it's the fact that the flame was such an important part of that documentary is very good. And I was with my two children, my wife, and we were standing there in the quay, and when the flame was lit and all that, my 8-year-old daughter was asking me about it and what it was. And as the crowds melted away, we went down there, and she went over to just have a very good look at it. And I was touched by that, because I said to myself, you know, she's here today at 8 years of age. Hopefully in 50 years' time, she'll remember this was a very historic day, and that flame will be still burning very strongly in New Ross.
Thank you very much, Michael.
Yeah, well, this time last year I was down here at the Kennedy Summer School, and we went out to Dunganstown, and it's just amazing what has been done in a year. I mean, it's just almost incredible that the whole planning of it and the work could be all carried out in such a way as it has been. And I really enjoyed that documentary. I know David Harvey said it still has to be timed up, but there were some wonderful pieces of a very anxious manager and all those kind of things. I hope he doesn't take those out, because those of us who've served on councils, you know, managers are very important people, and it's lovely to see that they get kind of worried and frightened and anxious, the same as ordinary people in the community. But it really was, it was very, very moving, I have to say. And I've been to Kennedy's grave in Arlington, and you know, you suddenly realise what a huge thing it was to be allowed to bring the flame, and the lovely humanity of managing not being able to light the flame and getting the big matches in through the hole in the lamp. So, you know, these are things that anybody who was there will remember very closely. Unlike Mike, I am actually somebody who was alive and well at the time of Kennedy's visit. It was 3 days after my 18th birthday when he arrived, because 22nd of June happens to be my birthday, and that date was very resonant in that film. And I was a second-year student in UCD studying science, and an uncle of ours, our Uncle Joe, worked with the tax inspector's system, and their office was on O'Connell Street. So the minute we heard about Kennedy's visit, myself and my sisters, now my older sister Mary was actually in America at the time, but the rest of us, we rang our Uncle Joe and said, please, can you get us permission to come into your office on O'Connell Street on the day? And fair dues to him, I think every office and shop on O'Connell Street was shut for the day when he was coming down. And so we all clambered in there with our bottles of orangeade and our sandwiches, and we had to go in very early to get in because we hadn't a car and we were going in on the bus. And we got in and we must have been there for hours and hours, feeling terribly superior to all the people who had to stand on the street. Because we were out the second floor window and we could see everybody standing, and we could sit down and we could go to the toilet and we could do all the kind of things that matter to you. And then I have still a vivid memory of the motorcade coming along. And because Kennedy was such a striking character with that wonderful head of hair, which you see on so many of the Kennedy family,
and his big smile and his wonderful teeth and everything. You could see him. I mean, it wasn't just kind of a dot moving along, you know, in a car. You could actually see him. And, you know, it was the biggest thing that ever happened in our lives. It was the biggest thing. We didn't have television. Very few houses had television, and anybody unlucky enough to have a television got all their neighbours in. Whether they wanted them in or not, the neighbours would arrive. People stood outside shop windows. They couldn't get any sound, but they actually stood in clumps outside shop windows watching it. And the people, I was asking more people yesterday before I came down, you know, what do you remember? And one lad said, well, I was very young, he said, we had a television, we tried to hide it because we knew that people would be coming in. Before long, there was about 45 people in a very small house, and they were all, I mean, the television screen was probably the size, not much bigger than most of our mobile phones nearly now, and it was kind of hazy, but people wanted to be together, and it really did bring people together. And I couldn't have known when I was 18 that years later, I would have the great pleasure and honour of meeting a number of John F. Kennedy's sisters, because I knew Jean Kennedy Smith when she was here as ambassador, and then when I was involved in the Special Olympics. Eunice, I became very friendly with her when she was here, and so it was kind of full circle coming around. But what I just want to say about that visit, 1963, there were very few foreign companies that had opened up in Ireland. And ironically, in 1964, the first of the big pharmaceutical companies opened in Swords. We lived in Ballymun at that stage, and then my husband got a job in the new factory in Swords, Lindsay, which was making pharmaceuticals. And I'm absolutely convinced that was, as it were, as a direct result of us, first of all, the Americans recognising Ireland because of the visit, and in turn, we as an Irish society and an Irish government seeking to get American investment into Ireland. And two big factories opened in Swords at that time, a company called Technicon and a company called Lindsay, which is now Bristol Myers Chemicals. And that's where I worked and my husband worked. And, you know, Kennedy's visit was a real awakening, an opening of Irish society in a way. Of course there was stuff going on, the economy was improving, but Kennedy and the glamour of it and the opening and the fact that he paid such respect to this tiny dot in the ocean. We were a tiny dot in the ocean compared to America, and yet he came here to Ireland and actually opened the doors for all of us as students and many Irish people then to get good work in America, and in turn, as I said earlier on at the other session, over 700 American firms operating in Ireland with over 100,000 employees. So, you know, that was really the start of it.
Thank you very much, Nora. Lovely memories. What would you like to share with us? What would you like to tell us?
I think that documentary should actually be recommended viewing or compulsory viewing for everybody in your house, just to see what actually went in behind the scenes. I think for a lot of people in town, they wouldn't realise all the hard work from the town council, the JFK Trust, and the Grennan family. I think that it's just really good to see everything that was involved in that way. And what I thought was really interesting was, I suppose, how the youth element of the young Kennedys was brought into it. On the day, I actually went on a media pass out to the various events, out to the Homestead, to Kennedy Park, and then back into town. And I accompanied a Beat 102, 103 reporter, so that's a youth station, so there was a youth angle to it. And I think what was really evident was how the Kennedys pushed the young, like even 10, 13-year-olds, the older boys, Max and Chris, how they pushed them actually forward into public speaking roles. And I think it's really through that, it's the reaffirmation of the Kennedy relationship for a younger generation. I think that's really important for people to realise that maybe it's not what happened 50 years ago or that relationship, but as I think Max Kennedy had said out in Kennedy Park, that he said that politics, there's patience in politics, and what happens today can have major results, positive and negative down the line. So we actually don't know yet what the repercussions positively will be furthermore in the future for New Ross.
Yeah, and they definitely had that one direction effect on the crowd.
They certainly did, yeah.
So in general then, you think a very positive?
Very positive, yeah. I think there's absolutely great pride, renewed pride in New Ross amongst people from the town, and I think it has really put New Ross back on the map in a positive way. It's not just about the bridge and the traffic. I know friends of mine all over the country were just like really impressed with what they saw on the television. You get texts saying, I've just passed through New Ross, it looks amazing, as if you had something to do with it yourself, I didn't build the quayfront, but I think what's also relevant really is to realise that tourism is maybe the next industry that will support New Ross, and the river has been an important part in New Ross over the centuries. From the port, you had Ross Company building the barges, the connection to the canal system. You have Albatross, and around the river there's always been infrastructure. The quayside, I think, is the next iteration of that, and how the river plays a part in keeping New Ross alive, keeping people in jobs. And I suppose the infrastructure is the key, the Dunbrody ship, the Emigrant Flame now, and I think there's just something maybe in that people should realise that it is an industry that's as important as any maybe major factory or anything that has played a part along the riverfront over the years.
Okay, thank you very much. President Kennedy, but it was along the quayfront of Wexford. He came in this magnificent vehicle that they showed quite a few pictures of. And the thing that really impressed me about President Kennedy, we had always heard about these suits that the Americans wore, and they were always shiny. And I think a shiny suit of that statue would look very well on our final speaker, Mr. George Hook. George, you have some great memories to share with us. You look well in the car as well, by the way.
Well, the first thing is, I'm the only person here who hasn't watched the film. The reason I haven't watched the film is it would remind me of the most traumatic 4 hours of my life. It was interesting. I did see the last couple of minutes where Eamon Hoare sort of saying, yeah, there were a lot of glitches and nobody noticed, thanks be to God. Anne Doyle and I had been asked to sort of MC the concert and all that sort of stuff, and nobody talked to us at all. And then I came down for a cup of coffee in the JFK Trust building, Fighter Ship, and I met Anne. And I said, Anne, do you know what's going on? And she said, no. And I said, I don't either. So then we went up on the stage, and it's interesting, you heard the director there saying, we periodically went off piste, but we kept skiing. He forgot to mention that we didn't have any skis. It is like, so we literally, it is the only time in my life where for 3.5 hours, I literally, Anne and I, had literally no idea what happened. We had no script, we had no audio cue. Somebody like Kenny would have fainted at the brass back, but old Doyle and old Hook, being old pros, carried on anyway without anything, and it seemed to work, but I don't want to be reminded of it. Just to stay with the modern celebrations, there were few of us at Arlington for obvious reasons. And I was there, we broadcast from DC, and we went to the graveside. I just want to try, for those of you who weren't there, to maybe give you a flavour, because the emotion still wells up. As you stand by this grave, that is still the most visited grave in Arlington Cemetery. And I stood there, And remember, I'm the oldest person, probably not on this platform, but in the entire And I remember this man at the height of his physical powers, but we're there, and the Irish Army is there. And these American Marines come in, the soldiers of the most powerful nation on earth. And our guys match them. And like, I don't think people realize what the people who organized this did. They brought an army, a foreign army, and a foreign flag to the graveside of the President of the United States of America. It may well have been done. I don't really know. But if it did, it's very rare. So here you are, my chest is absolutely bursting with pride as I see these Irish soldiers with the tricolour. And then where this grave is, just behind it, there's this kind of hill, this green grassy hill. And there's an Irish piper up there. And this Irish piper's playing. And I thought, Jesus Christ, I hope the Irish priest isn't here. Sorry, Father. I thought, Jesus Christ, this is just unbelievable, you know? And it was just so special. I thought it was just amazing. And the flame, and then you had these naysayers on some of the newspapers suggesting that a member of New Ross Town Council had actually dared to have a Coca-Cola from the fridge in the hotel. Had no understanding of what had happened. Just simply no understanding. The other interesting thing for me was, and I'm going to go back to '63 now, Kennedy had seen, when he laid a wreath, I think at Bodenstop or perhaps somewhere else, he had seen the Irish cadets from the cadet school in McCarran, and they had this wonderful, they did this wonderful thing with the rifles and, you know, all that sort of stuff. And Jacqueline, when you imagine, Kennedy's been shot in Dallas, you can imagine the emotion, everything, this young widow, her clothes spattered with the brains of her husband, right? Lyndon Johnson has been sworn in as president on Air Force One. And in the succeeding few hours, she remembers her husband's reaction to the Irish cadets. And she says, I want the Irish cadets. And this is why I was so emotional at Arlington. Because I knew 50 odd years, almost 50 years before, another group of Irish soldiers, young Irish cadets, had stood at that graveside and carried out this incredible routine. And they had been telephoned, like, said, you're on the plane tomorrow, and you're going to the funeral. So, I mean, there was no practice, no nothing. And then the really interesting connection. Jamie Heaslip is with the Lions in Australia. And following him, obviously, proud as punch, is Old Man Heaslip. Old Man Heaslip was one of those cadets. And I rang him in Australia on the radio and talked to him about it, and I'd give his son such a hard time. It's amazing that he did. And he talked to that about how proud they were in front of a whole American nation, now these Irish soldiers. My connection with it is interesting because I was born in Cork in a relatively poor family, and it was 50 quid to go to UCC, and my parents couldn't afford 50 quid. So I got a job selling rail tickets in Kent Station, Cork Station, to raise some cash to go to college, and then I went to England to work. But it was a lovely guy working with me, older than me, in Kent Station. And he said, why don't we get Time magazine and find out what's going on in the world? And you couldn't get Time magazine in Cork. So we subscribed for Time magazine, And then I'd get it, if it came to my house, and then I'd read it, then I'd give it to him. And then when the 6 months ran out of cheap subscription, he'd subscribe, and he'd read the book. And it coincided at this point, I just left school, it coincided with Kennedy's march for the presidency. And so suddenly now, I've got Time magazine, and I'm following the Kennedy march, the primaries, which now we all know about New Hampshire and, you know, all this sort of stuff. I was one of the few people who, like, certainly Cork, who knew all this stuff. And, like, you can remember still the fellas he beat. There was Hubert Humphrey, there was Stuart Symington, there was Lyndon Johnson. There were all these guys. Now, the big thing was, you've got to remember here, no Catholic at this point has been president of the USA. There was a great effort by the mayor of New York in about 1930 odd, Al Catholic. He was demolished at the polls. Because remember, you know, it's not all that long ago at this point that there were signs in factories in America, no Irish need apply. So it might be 60, but, you know, Catholics aren't necessarily welcome. And this young guy, and remember, he was never supposed to be the guy, because his older brother, who'd been a bomber pilot, was killed in World War II. Joe was the guy that was going to be the president, but now Joe's dead. So they now have to put up this young congressman, John F. So I follow all these primaries. The big thing is, can he persuade Americans to vote for a Catholic? It's quite interesting when you think of Andy Kennedy and some of the speeches he's made about the Catholic Church. Kennedy had to say, look, the Pope isn't going to tell me how to run America. And I always remember, the big primary was West Virginia, right? Now, the average intellect in West Virginia on an IQ scale is about 42. So his chances of winning West Virginia are pretty slow. They're all Protestants, and they're also all coal miners, as it happens. Kennedy goes down there, and we saw for the first time the Kennedy sisters, who were actually much better politicians than the brothers. They were incredible. They wowed West Virginia. Kennedy wins West Virginia. Everybody knew he was going to win New Hampshire or Vermont or whatever. Nobody thought he could swing West Virginia. So now suddenly he's a candidate. Then he goes to Texas. Lyndon Johnson, homeboy in Texas and everything else. Kennedy meets the leaders of the Protestant faiths in Houston. And he makes this incredible speech in which he does this thing about the Pope isn't going to tell me how to run America. And he comes away from it and he says, maybe I didn't win any votes, but I certainly didn't lose any. And that was the crucial thing. Then he gets elected. Now, coming to Ireland, Nora alluded to it. I don't think people realize that when Kennedy came to Ireland, he came against the advice of the US State Department. Because what we don't realize, in 1963, America was pretty unhappy with about our neutral stance in World War II. We were sitting nice and comfortable by our firesides, and American GIs were dying on Normandy beaches. So we weren't popular, like we like to think, you know, that they love us and come on in, George, you know, come on in Ireland and have a pint. It wasn't like that. And he came here against the wishes. Now the other interesting thing, and Nora will remember that, she's up there looking at the window or whatever it is, he's in this open-topped car. Now we were really impressed by the FBI and the Secret Service and everything, because we'd never seen that. But it was an open car. I mean, no modern-day politician in a major country is going around an open car. And when you think then about Dallas and later, you realize, you know, there was never an open car again. But there he is in his open car, and he's sitting up on the back seat. You know what I mean? He's sitting up on the seat, not in it, and he's waving to everybody, and the women are fainting and so on, and all that sort of stuff. He's a pop star. I don't think you can ever imagine. And so Then there's hooking here. By now I got to college, you see, and I'm a mature student because I had to work to get there. And the fellow who got the contract for the cars for the FBI had cars with no drivers. It was real Irish contract, you know. They had cars with no drivers. So I don't know where's he going to get drivers from. So he studies in our class in college, and he says to Don, he says, listen, will you round up a few of the lads to drive the cars? So Don says, George, you're in. It's a minor detail of the driving license which George didn't have. And in fact, George couldn't drive. Anyway, a whole bunch of us kind of got involved in this. Now, the important thing about this is we're driving FBI men, and they have violin cases with machine guns. I mean this, like, they're coming out with the machine guns. And, but they're Americans, right? And they're chewing gum, okay? So they've got to be wealthy, right? So we're going to make a fortune on tips, right? And the old juries at Ballsbridge, if you know it was the Intercontinental in those days, and that's what they were all staying. But they had Kennedy stickers on the window. So a Kennedy sticker on the window of the car meant you could go through a red light, you could do anything, right? Just do anything. So 3 of these guys came out on the line. My pal Simon O'Leary was the car in question, and they say, son, take us to the Metropole. Now the Metropole was a cinema in O'Connell Street, a restaurant on the first floor, and a dance hall for ladies of a certain age on the second floor, right? It was for young fellas like us from college went to meet older women. So the 3 servicemen anyway go in, and after writing the precise Simon, hold on. So they come out, and there were about 6 wands hanging out, right? So they stashed the 6 wands in the car and said, Simon, take us to Beechwood Avenue, right? So Simon takes them to Beechwood Avenue in Ranelagh and parks opposite the door of the church, which I thought was quite interesting. They stash the 6 broads in an apartment opposite Beechwood Avenue Church, right? And then for the rest of the Kennedy visit, you began in the intercon in the car park, and a fella come out and he'd say, son, take me to Beechwood Avenue. Right? But like, at this point, we still haven't got a bomb, right? And then I always remember Simon. Simon was careful with money. I would have said he was mean, but Simon was and it's the last day. And what you've also got to understand at this point is, remember, it is the Cold War, so we are likely to go up in a mushroom cloud at any minute. I mean, if there's war between us and Russia, it's the end of civilization. And Kennedy has to, wherever he goes, he has his telephone, press the red button to send the atomic bomb to Russia. And that's out in a helicopter, out in the airport. And every now and again, a fellow comes out of the intercom and says, son, take me to the Talking Bird. And the Talking Bird is a helicopter with codes for the atomic bomb. So this fellow comes out and he says, son, take me to the Talking Bird in a hurry, and there's money in it for you, right? And it was Simon, so the glint of money. So boot to the floor, red the lights, the whole thing. Simon heads out to the Talking Bird. Now there's changing currency, obviously, and I'll try and convert it. So he puts his hand in his pocket, and he says, son, go buy yourself a beer. And he gives Simon a shilling. To convert that, a shilling at that point wouldn't buy him a bottle of stout, let alone a pint. And that was the summation, the absolute grand total of the tips from the Kennedy visit to the trial. Finally, let me say this. John F. Kennedy was the finest public speaker the White House has ever seen before or since. Does anybody remember a sentence from any other inauguration address since George Washington, apart from Kennedy. What Kennedy made was brilliant there was he had wonderful speechwriters, but he worked in partnership with them. As Nora probably knows, she probably had to do it many times. Very often a minister or a politician will, and the same in every other country, is handed a speech and they deliver it. Even in Ireland, Kennedy worked word by word, full stop by full stop to deliver a speech. And I'm following him around, and we're out in Dunganstown, and the three Kennedy women again are going around. The tea was made in kettles, if you remember the way we used to make it, with the milk, the sugar, the tea, and the kettle. And they were going around topping up the coffee, the pot tea, the cups for the pressman. They wowed the pressman. So they were a clever, like Kennedy got, he would have got good coverage anyway, but the women ensured he got the best coverage ever. But I think, I mean, he went to a lot of places. His greatest speech, I think, was actually in New Ross. And I'm standing there with tears pouring down my cheeks because he understood more than anybody. And remember, Nixon has come here to find his relatives, Reagan has come here, Obama has come here. Nobody understood it like Kennedy did. Nobody could point to a man, 1845, Patrick Kennedy, both left, God. Kennedy appreciated that. But it was a wonderful bit in it. Andy Minahan is the chairman of the New Ross Harbour Commissioners. He's got a tall man with a beard, and he's standing there. And Kennedy says, it's brilliant. Kennedy said, you know, if things had been different, and Patrick Kennedy, my grandfather, had stayed at home, and Andy Minahan's grandfather had left and gone to America, he would probably, standing here today, would be President of the USA, Andy Minahan, and John F. Kennedy, Chairman of the Harbour Commissioners, working in the fertilizer factory in Glasgow Road. He brought that. This is a man who 50 years later exercises an extraordinary effect on those of us who view him in the sense of who we're around and succeeding generations who do not. He remains for us that every Irish person has the old American cliche that you can go to the White House, whoever you might be. He exercised that. It was a help that he could bribe the people of Chicago to vote for him. But money apart, he was the best. I'm sorry for going on this.
Marvellous number of days and this fantastic summer school. So it's only fitting on behalf of everyone involved in this that Noel Whelan should round off the proceedings.
I very briefly want to thank Tomas Kavanagh and his team here at St. Michael's Theatre. A whole range of people who have supported the summer school. In Water and Glanbia for the flowers, Murphy's furniture for the armchairs that you're sitting in, the Monarch for support with the accommodation, American Airways for support with the flights, Circle Films for providing us with that, with the two movies we watched, including the last one. We started on Thursday night with Ethel the movie, we finished tonight with Patrick Grennan the movie. We want to thank Fáilte Ireland, who have always supported the summer school, Wexford County Council and New Ross Town Council, who have also been a terrific help to us, as have the Coca-Cola Foundation. It's unfair that I've been the front of house space because Carmel Delaney and all of the staff at the John F. Kennedy Trust for the summer school and throughout all of the year, both now in Dunbrody and at the homestead in Dunganstown, do a terrific job. And I'd like you to thank the staff. Clearly has worked closely with me on putting the program and the operations together. Mary French, who is the new brand and marketing manager of the John F. Kennedy Trust. I want you to thank those two also. Nobody will forgive me for singling out for the decades of work he's done for this town, Sean Reid. I'm blown away by the fact that so many, including Rory Kennedy and Ted Kennedy, and Michael Graham, who I see at the back of the hall tonight, thank you for travelling, Michael, have travelled all the way from Rep to New Ross to gather us in this corner as we've reflected on the various themes around the summer school. I'm genuinely grateful to Michael, George, Nora, everybody who has travelled to be part of the speaker panels here at this event. Thank you very much. Now that it's the second year, I like to kind of gather one image in my head from each of the summer schools. Last year, it was a contribution given by Austin Curry at the first summer school on the theme of the impact which the American Civil Rights Movement had on the Northern Ireland Civil Rights Movement. It was just one of those contributions at the first summer school last year that surprised me in its impact, and it had a really strong impact. The memory I think we'll take forward from this one was actually a contribution from the floor. I don't know if the gentleman is here tonight. I missed his name last night. After Ted Kennedy's speech, a man stood up, got the microphone here from the front floor, and told how he had been in Arlington the night before. Some of you were here, some of you may not. He was in Arlington the night before Teddy Kennedy was buried. Himself and his son were paying respects at some grave. They were about to lock up the cemetery. They saw the colour party rehearsing the event for the next day, and the colour party were in tears. His son went up and asked the Major why they were in tears. And we have the tree, our logo as it were, or our graphics for this session have been the Tree Brothers. It was deliberately selected as the Tree Brothers. And the Major said two things. One, he said one of the reasons that they were all genuinely upset was because the Tree Brothers were now reunited. And that was a poignant moment that I think that struck many of us that were in Arlington earlier this year. And the second reason, he said that quietly, over the course of week in, week out, they'd given up counting after 50. Ted Kennedy, Senator Ted Kennedy, used to go up to Arlington for the removal of an Afghan vet or an Iraq war vet from the American Army who was being buried. Without hype or publicity, he just quietly come along to the removal ceremony, and they had developed an extraordinary affection for him in Arlington. That moment came from the floor of the summer school. As we design and put together the kind of events, those are moments you can't plan, they just happen. They happen because it's an extraordinary part of the Kennedy story. We put a lot of thought into what should be the very last moment of the summer school. And we thought a lot about what, the final stage should be, what the final piece should be. We decided there was no better way to do it. I would ask you to give one last summer school welcome for Brian McMahon and the younger members of the World Championship New Ross.
Morning.